Hello, welcome back to the Unpacked Traveler Podcast, where we unpack the wonders and challenges of long term travel so you can feel empowered to enjoy this lifestyle in your most confident way. I'm so glad to have you here again. I hope you guys have been enjoying this past episodes. And I'm really excited for this one. I'm going to talk all about how I became an au pair, how was the process, how was the experience, if I regret, if I don't, and what I take from it. So let's get unpacked. So it was a lonely, cold night in the middle of the quarantine. I'm kidding, but I'm not really kidding. That has happened. I was in the quarantine, in the middle of the quarantine, and I had just finished my college because I did finish it during the quarantine. I had the online graduation and everything. And I was like, what's the next step in my life? That's how it started. I've always known I wanted to live abroad, get out of Brazil. I just didn't know how. I've always dreamed about it, had always saved money for it, but it was still in the back of my mind somehow. I feel like the life that I was having in Brazil did not allow me to have much vision for different routes. The quarantine actually was an important phase of my life because it opened my mind for the changes that I needed to take, the relationships that were not healthy for me, and the fact that I had to do something for myself in that moment. And when I finished college, I think it was like the question that I asked myself, now what, was really important because then I realized I didn't have anything else holding me back in Brazil, and I was ready to move on and take the first step into my dream. And what was the cheapest and easiest way for me to do that? I found out it was through being an au pair. I don't know if everybody knows what an au pair is, but it's basically when you babysit for other families, usually in other countries, and you live with them as well. They become your host family. And I knew about that. Honestly, I have no clue how, but I just remember one important moment where I had a friend in college, and she just quit college and she became an au pair. And I was like, fuck, I want to do that, but I want to finish college first, right? So I did that, and yeah, the au pair way was the cheapest one and the safest, in my opinion, because I had never left the country. I have never left Brazil. I did know English because I was a teacher. And it was the safest way because you went with an agency. Back then, I had no idea how to travel by myself. I had no idea what the world outside of Brazil was like, besides from movies and internet. So I felt like by going with an agency, I had a bit of more safety that if something went wrong, I had someone, or in this case, an agency to have my back. I remember that I paid around 5,000 reais, which is not a lot for the agency to find a family for me. And I'm not 100% sure of this price. My memory is a bit foggy when it comes to past prices, honestly. I don't know why. But I remember it was cheap enough that I could afford, and cheaper than other exchange programs prices in Brazil. And I started the process without anybody knowing. I had a boyfriend back then. My family did not know. My boyfriend did not know. My best friends did not know. I just decided to do it by myself because I thought that if I told anybody, they might get in the way. They might try to convince me otherwise, or I don't know. I just felt like it was something mine to do, and I'm glad I did. Honestly, I don't think I was confident enough back then to have followed if somebody else had said something against it. Maybe, not really sure. It had to happen the way it happened, and it was really nice. I started like when you get in the company, you have to go through a process where you start taking courses in Brazil. You start being part of meetings and just like general stuff that you can get used to how the program is like, who to talk to if something with the family doesn't work, how to treat kids, how to actually prepare for being a babysitter, and some like cultural stuff on the United States as well. It was actually really good that I had something to focus on after college. And then I started interviewing families, and they start interviewing myself. It was a really interesting process because I got to meet a lot of families. I got to practice my English, but I still am, but I was so insecure during the process and during the interviews. I could never be myself and like actually sell myself in that way. But my curriculum was good. My resume, for that matter, was good as a babysitter. I had good English. Like, I felt like it would be easy for me to find a good family. And back then I was listening to many, many YouTube videos about it, like how to prep for your interviews, how to set good limits, because sometimes the girls, especially the girls, nowadays there are boys also that do that. So I'm going to say the people who do these interviews on our side that want to go abroad, they'll take anything to be there, to be in the United States back then. And I honestly would. But from the videos that I've watched, I understood that no, I had to set limits to these families because they were not always really nice to us. The program itself, the au pair program, showed us something really cultural, that both parties were interested in the cultural exchange we were going to have. However, this is not the reality. Most families in the United States, especially, or at least I have experience with that, they'll see us as a cheap babysitter. So they don't really care about the cultural exchange, which is sad, but that's how the world goes. And it was good for me to have watched these videos because it made me realize I had to set my limits. I have to ask for a car. I have to ask them to pay the gas for me, and just this and other stuff I'm going to mention later on. And yeah, the interview starts. I start getting a lot of replies, but a lot of denies as well. Not many people were actually a match with me, and the other way around as well. And on the 17th family, and I remember that because it's my lucky number, and I had asked whatever I believed back then, just say the universe, that I really wanted my family to be the 17th one, and I really trust that it was. And it was actually, but I asked them for a sign. If the family was the right one, I just need a sign. And the sign came. I'm not going to tell you the details because it's really personal, but I asked for a sign. It was the 17th family. The family was 2 kids, 1 girl that was 9 and the boy that was 7, and a dad and a mom. They were really nice, but really straightforward in the interview, which I don't mind. Maybe they were having like many, many interviews. So I decided to stick up to them. By the way, this was in the middle of the quarantine, 2020. What happened was it was really hard to get a visa back then because the American consulate in São Paulo was closed due to that. So it was really tricky. Like I had to find like several ways to go to the United States in a moment that nobody was traveling. And the family was really in need of somebody. So they were willing to pay a bit extra to help me in that matter, which was really good as well. I really saw that they wanted me. Little did I know. So basically, I found out that I can go to Colombia to get my visa. There were a lot of girls that were doing that, and there was like one company in a specific that was doing it for the girls and helping the girls. I'm saying the girls because I've only met girls during the process, okay? So I went to Colombia. I'm going to shorten up this part of the story because there's a lot that I want to talk about. And this is like an extra fact that I went to Colombia. The family paid for everything. They paid for my stay, my food, my flight, because they know they needed somebody and I really wanted to go. I stayed in Colombia for 1 month. That's a whole crazy experience with 4 other girls that I did not know in one Airbnb apartment with 2 rooms. Everybody was really anxious about like not getting the visa approved because that's something that might happen and having to go back to Brazil. Many of the girls were paying for this trip themselves, not the families, which was really sad to see, but I was really thankful that mine was paying for mine. Anyway, went to Colombia, got my visa, and from there, I went to the United States in July or August 2021. The arrival in the United States, honestly, it's a feeling that I would like to be able to put it into words. It was just like a fucking dream come true, like sometimes nowadays that I travel too much, it takes a while for me to realize where I am and how far I am from home. But when I arrived in the States, the reality was just there for me. And I'm really glad because I could actually see, fuck, I'm in the United States. Like, look at these streets. They're from the movies. Like, everything was a movie for me because I used to watch many American movies back then. So it was really, really like, oh, fuck, I'm in the dream. The dream came true. I'm here. Oh my God, that's so exciting. It's starting, And fuck, it was. It's starting. It was really, really fun. But it's not all roses. This podcast talks about the reality and the challenges behind everything, so let's get into it. The first big challenge that I faced when I arrived in the United States was, of course, making new friends because it's a brand new life. You have no one but yourself. And I had to make new friends from scratch. And it was really... I wouldn't say it was hard to meet new people because the agency kind of like supports you on that. They put you in touch with the other au pairs in the area and in an international way, which is really nice. But that doesn't mean you're going to make real friends super fast. Especially me, I feel like I need a really long time to be intimate with somebody, friend-wise. So it was friend-wise. So it's really like it was a challenge, And another challenge that I had was just like, fuck, it's a new culture, right? Totally different from yours. In my family, they were really, really like white Americans. They were really career oriented. The kids were in a very good school. They were in a really fancy neighborhood. They were really rich. The house was gorgeous. The cars they had, they're like Volvos. I was driving a Volvo. I'm saying that this is a challenge, right? Here's why. The warmness of a Brazilian family, non-existent. It felt like, how does it feel? It felt like they were robots. I used to say that my host mom was like that's so mean, was like a robot from Google that did not work out and they sent it to a house. Because honestly, there were no, at least not that I've seen, there's no warmness in this family. It was like an army, the way she treated her kids, with like straight and set times to do everything. The kids were so great. They were, especially the girl, the 9-year-old. She was so sweet, so creative, so energetic. So talkative. And the boy was a little bit more hard to deal with because he was 7. He's in an age that he doesn't really understand his emotions. He wants to throw tantrums all the time, which is like sitting down on the floor and crying and throwing things at you. So it was not the best at all moments, but he's a kid, like we get it. But I think was the hardest for me was with the parents. It was really hard to connect with them. I know that from my side, it's already hard, but I think from their side it was really hard too. We could not see a way that our conversations would evolve, or even a way that we could see eye to eye. I was always looking at them as like this, like, so different people from me. Like, how can I talk to them? Like, what do they talk about? Like, how can I make myself presentable enough for them? It was really hard for me, I put myself in those boxes too of like, I'm the babysitter, I should not talk to them as much, and they allowed me to stay in that place as well. So I don't blame them, of course, but I'm just talking the reality about the situation. And, in the beginning was kind of like I was still in the dreamland. So I would accept some of these challenges as like, it's okay. Like, I have a huge room, a huge bathtub. Like, I'm living in such a beautiful house. Texas had a great weather. It was like an overall great experience. I was hearing so many bad experiences from my other au pairs friends. And I would think like, wow, I'm in a good family, like it's okay. We're not connecting. We don't get along as well, but at least they don't treat me bad. I have everything. I can negotiate my weekends, although I still had to work 2 weekends a month. I could travel, but there were some of the stuff that I did not agree with at all, and that made me really, really like, oh fuck, this bothers me a lot, which was um they really treated me as an a babysitter, right? So an adult that has responsibilities and is responsible for herself. However, they would ask me to like tell them if I was sleeping out or in the house in advance. They would be a little too controlling where I was, where the car is sleeping, like really overly safe, I think, with me and the car. So there was a lack of trust there that I did not understand and agree with that much. So I was a responsible adult, but still I had to be controlled by and tell them where I was sleeping and where I was going. So it was kind of like I had to lie a few times, of course. There were like 2 or 3 times that I had not sleep in the house and I had not tell them, and they were really pissed about it. But that's part of life, you know what I'm saying? But what it helped me during that period, I hate this word, was that I made amazing friends in Dallas. Like my Pedro, my boyfriend, I met him there. My best friend Hafa, I met her there. And after I met them, it kind of like everything started to become way easier and way harder as well because they had free schedules. They didn't have to work on the weekends, and I did. So that started to bother me a lot. I was starting to have a relationship with Pedro, so I would want to sleep with him or have him sleep in my place, and I could not do that. Nobody was allowed in my house after a party that I threw. So, I mean, they're not that wrong. And it was not even a party. It was 4 people, okay? 4 people who got really drunk, but who cares? We didn't do anything. We just got in the pool late at night. Like, I mean, there's a pool. It's hot. We can get in, right? Anyways, it was not a match. You see, it was not a match. And then I was thinking about asking for a rematch when they did it first. Rematch is basically when a family or an au pair is not happy with how things are going, and they can ask for a rematch to be matched with other family or other au pair. And actually, they didn't ask for a rematch. They just wanted to quit the program. They were not happy with the program. Honestly, I don't think they were happy with somebody living in their house besides their own family, which also I understand. I don't blame them at all. It was just, learning experiences. And I started to search for another family. I was in a relationship with Pedro. Pedro was in Dallas. I was looking for families, any family actually. I was looking for Texas, New York, and California because those were the 3 places I was willing to live. But mostly New York and California. I was like, fuck, I didn't get the first time. Now I'm going to get it. Even though I knew it was a bit more expensive than Texas, I was like, no, it's worth it. And I was just like so anxious in this process. It's such an anxious process to find new families, like your whole life is about to change. You kind of don't have the control over because you kind of depend on other families to accept you and want to have you in their houses. They have all these like new rules and different rules that you were used to. So it feels like is a really stressful and nerve-wracking experience, especially if you have somebody that you love that you're probably gonna be away from. And I actually found 2 families that I was comfortable with, one of them in New York and one of them in Austin, also Texas. And I could not make the decision. So again, I asked the universe, like, please help me, I can't make this decision. I actually, the sign took a while to arrive. So I actually matched and decided to go with the New York family. But you know, when you make a decision and you start feeling, fuck, I made the wrong decision. Like, I was like, fuck, I'm not going to New York. I feel it, but I've already like told everybody that I'm going. I told the family's counting on me. Everybody's counting on me to go, but I don't want to go anymore. Like, what the fuck am I doing? So I went to sleep and I'm like, fuck, I need a sign, okay? If this is true, if this is not my anxiety, universe, please let me know. And the next day I woke up with one certainty in my brain, which was stay in Texas. Don't go to New York. And I'm like, okay, I'm taking the necessary actions. And I did. I talked to everybody that I need to. I apologized. I canceled the match and I went ahead with the Austin family. And it was the best decision that I've ever made in my fucking life. Okay? Not only because I was 4 hours away from Pedro and my best friend Hafa, but also the family was phenomenal, guys. The family was just incredible. They were so much what I actually expected a family to be. They were free. They were like, first it was 2 teenagers that I was taking care of, a 13-year-old girl and a 15-year-old boy. So it was much less babysitting and much more cooking for and driving them to places, just making sure they were alive and, you know, doing their responsibilities and etc. Of course, taking care of teenagers is not also easy, but I did not have to be their mom. I just had to take care of them. The dad was there. The dad was present. The mom was present in their lives. Although the mom lived in California and the dad lived in the house only. So it was like a single dad, 2 kids, and another brother. He was 18. I did not have to take care of him. He had already a driver's license, a job, everything. So in this family, I actually felt like part of the family. I did not feel like I was like one of the brothers and sisters, but I felt like a distant cousin in the house, you know. They would let me like use the kitchen as many times as I wanted, the hours that I wanted. They would let me use every part of the house as my own, which the other family was a bit harder to. I never felt like comfortable in the shared places. I would only feel comfortable in my own room. And with this family, the second family, it was just like, I really like, okay, now I live in this house, you know, now I'm treated as I should, as an adult, as a part of the family. They also gave me like an amazing car. If I thought the first one was good, the second one was like amazing. It was a Kia, 7 seats, just great. And the second family allowed me to travel anywhere I wanted with the car. They didn't ask me where the car was, where I was. It was just like they trusted me, you know. I could see they trusted me. And it was really, really amazing. The minimum wage that an au pair gets usually is $200 a week, which is like, okay, but not really good, right? Like they'll pay for your food, they'll pay for your gas if you negotiate, but it's never enough for you to save. It's enough for you to live, but not enough for you to save and travel. In the second family, I had asked for a raise. They gave me. I had negotiated them to pay the gas for me as well with the car, of course. They gave it to me. Another great thing about the second family is that they'll let me like you buy whatever I wanted in the supermarket, which is totally reasonable. Like, fuck, the first family used to control everything that I bought in the supermarket, like taking pictures of my receipts and just like, if I bought any candies or ice cream or brownies, they would ask me to pay like myself, which is like, fuck, I'm not only like here to survive, I'm here to live. Let me fucking buy my ice cream, you know? And besides that, the first family would tell me stuff like, ice cream makes you fat, or like, do you really like your glasses? I can take you to like redo them and buy a new one. And just because they thought they were ugly, like, fuck you, dude. Not fuck you, that's mean. Like, but come on, fuck you. It was really, really hard. And the second family was just like, okay, you do you, I'll do me, I'll help you. You're here for my kids. I'll help you with the money. Let's go. And it was really good. The second family allowed fucking Pedro to come over. Pedro could sleep in my house. Like, few families allowed that. And I'm like really, really happy for that. I was happy for that. He could see my house and hang out with me. I had a lot of friends come over. They had like a a hot tub that I can use. It was such an amazing experience, the second family. And every other weekend, I would drive to Dallas 4 hours away to see my best friend and see Pedro, which made our connection really come on stronger. I don't know where our relationship would be if I had gone to New York back then. My life would be probably completely different. So I'm so thankful for the second family. I ask them like for blessings all the time. Although, of course, there were challenges, and I'm gonna talk about them. This episode is going long, guys. I think it's gonna be the longest one so far. And I'm like, I can feel my throat. Okay. Oh my God, I'm gonna be voiceless by the end of the day. Anyway, so the challenges with the second family was mostly the mom. She was in California, right? She was far from her kids, as chosen by the kids. So I've heard. But she used to be really controlling on the phone, like text messages with me, and really disrespectful sometimes, all of the negotiating, all of the talking that I did when I matched with the family was with the dad. All of my responsibilities were discussed with the dad, as long as with my hours. I preferred like to know the times that I would be working on the week, and he would tell me. But the mom thought for some reason that I was working long hours or longer hours. And whenever I was like, after dropping the kids out at school, I was, I don't know, shopping, doing stuff on my own, which I'm totally allowed to when I'm off. She would ask me to do stuff, and I would tell her like, give her my limits, like I only work from then, so I'll do by then. Right now I'm doing stuff, I'm on my off time, and she would not like be happy with it. Like, what the fuck, you're off? Like, and it started going like from bad to worse, because I would not like, I would do some of the stuff that she asked not happily, but because I was so thankful to this family, and I was not also appreciated for it. And it started getting really, really like a weird dynamic, especially when she went to the house, because she did a few times, and it was just like an awkward environment. I understand that I'm not the easiest person to be with or handle it. I know that I have my limits. I'm really like, I'm open-minded, but I'm also like, when I want something, I want something. When my mind is there, my mind is there. So I understand that I'm not the easiest, but it was also like a bit just confusing for me. Another challenge in this family was one of my host kids. I think she was really stuck up. So I think she was used to everybody treating her with what she wanted in the moment that she wanted. And it's basically, I think one of my values is the independency, like you want that girl, you go ahead and do it. You're old enough to do it. And I think the parents still treated her as a kid, even though she was a very mature 13-year-old, like she would be really messy. The whole house, actually, both kids were really messy, and they had a hard time like following rules or following responsibilities. I feel like throughout their lives, they just could do anything they wanted. So it was really hard to ask them gently and, take care of your shit, go to school on time, wake up at this time. It was really hard to wake them up sometimes in the morning. But they're teenagers. I feel like most teenagers are probably like that, like messy, don't follow rules. So it was, although it was hard and a challenge, I would much more prefer that lack of routine and responsibility compared to the other family I was having, where responsibility and time and everything like was on the top of everything, as is in an army. It was more real, the house felt alive. It was much more real than the first family. And another cultural shock that I just wanted to share about like comparing these two families. I feel like I had two opposites of American families, and they're both really American. The first one, the family with the kids, they were much more healthy, but even in an unhealthy way, like The kids could only eat broccoli and like sweet potato. They could never eat candies. Like Halloween was hard because the mom would hide the candies. They could only eat like one candy a day. It was really, really strict. And I found like the 9-year-old like hiding candies in her room. And I didn't even say anything because come on, she's a kid. She's allowed to have some candy. I don't know, I might not be like the greatest babysitter ever. I'm usually more on the side of the kid than on the side of the mom. So it's funny only. And with the second family, it was totally the opposite. The kids or the teenagers would only eat trash and fast food. Honestly, like candies all the time, frozen food all the time, fast food all the time. The dad would spend so much money on Starbucks and like fast food chains a month. That's like crazy amount of money a month. And the kids would only eat that. If you cooked like good food, which I did for myself, and it's tasty. It's not healthy. It's tasty food, but made at home. They would not eat it, telling that they had like stomach issues or something, which was like, come on. You probably have that because you eat a lot of shit. It was just like interesting to see this like contrary and opposite families. And in some moment with the second family, I decided that maybe I was growing tired of the au pair program. And here's why. Being an au pair was amazing, but I was starting to feel like my life, my time frames, my work, my calendar was being controlled by others, not me. And that started to bother me. I didn't even realize back then it was like this was the biggest fact that I quit the program. But it was like the freedom of having freedom in my calendar, like being able to choose when I want to travel, having flexible dates and flexible hours. And I think throughout my work life, I had always have to check in and check out, like being a teacher and then being an au pair. And it started like growing tired because maybe when everybody feels that way. But for me, it was just like, I don't want that for myself, like I can't live a happy life if I had that. Until to this day, if I'm not feeling good one day, for me, it's death. Having to go work and having to go stand up and, bring the energy with me. It's really, really hard for some reason. I much rather prefer to go with my flow and work the times that I feel comfortable, even though I know that responsibility and commitment is key in everything. And especially in this podcast, I have to show up, even though sometimes I'm not feeling 100% good, because that's something that I really want for myself. The podcast, I mean. But I know that doing that for somebody else and for something that I'm not really passionate about, for me is the killer, So I decided that I was almost done with it, but I had to make a plan to save money enough that I could leave. So from then it was just like waiting until I got enough money to quit. And then I talked to the family, I talked to the agency, and it was okay to quit as long as they found a substitute for me in time, and they did. So it was really, really like a good decision to first join the au pair program and second to quit. It was really a learning experience. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about the American culture that I was so passionate about and ended up not being anymore. It was a learning experience because it was in the US that I did my first solo travels, that I first starting to realize who I am, why I love traveling so much, why I've always loved traveling without even having traveled in my life. And in the end, I say that I don't like having stayed in the United States, but I'm really thankful for all of the opportunities that it brought me. I would totally go back there as a tourist, maybe to live for a while even again. Like I don't say no to anything. Things can change, but I feel like I've learned to appreciate much more the Brazilian culture after I left the United States. I saw how rare we are, how happy we are, how welcoming and warm we are as a country and as a people. And I'm really thankful for being a Brazilian because I feel like after I left Brazil, and actually before I got in the United States, I really wanted to be this American girl. And I don't know why, because I left and I realized I love being a Brazilian. I love my accent. I love my roots. And honestly, I'm so thankful for everything that I lived as an au pair and everything that I lived in the United States. I doubt that I would be where I am today, which I'm so proud of, if I hadn't done all of that. It was really, it was a learning experience about myself, especially, but also about the world. And I feel like that's what travel is, you know? You get out of your comfort zone so much that you have to find who you truly is in the middle of everything. And if you're thinking about joining the au pair program, please do so. Let me know. I can help you maybe with the interview process, anything that you want, actually, I'll help you with. And if you have only come to enjoy this story, also, please let me know. It's really important that I know that I'm not speaking to a computer, I'm speaking to you guys. If you want to know any other tips or advice, if you want to know any other stories about my life, any other details about these stories, or any other subjects about traveling and living abroad, please let me know. I think it's really nice that I know that I'm helping you guys and giving you value. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense for me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to this one. It was really amazing and freeing to share all of this with you. I think I lived so much of these travel experiences already that I feel kind of bad to keep it all to myself. I feel like I need to share with you for some reason that I still will know. By the time that I'm recording this podcast, no one's listening to it. So sometimes I question, like, why am I sharing all of that, you know? But I trust the gut, I trust my gut, and I trust my intuition that it will be helpful for somebody. And if that somebody is you, please let me know, because I really want to know that my intuition is right, that I have to record this podcast, and it will help people and inspire people to travel and inspire people to get out of their comfort zones and dive into the unknown. So thank you for listening to this one. If you have enjoyed, let me know. Thumbs up, like it, share it, comment on it, and follow me on Instagram. Rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. All of that shit that sometimes I forget to say. And that's it for today. See you in the next one. Besitos.